Welcome to It's Show Business. This week we have comedian Hunter Hill on. He's a super funny guy. He started the Rec Room Comedy Club in Orange County. He started Super Secret Comedy Show. He tours the world with Iliza Schlesinger. You're going to love this interview. Lots of great stuff. Please enjoy and subscribe to the pod if you haven't already. It's the best way to support us. Thank you so much. Well, Hunter Hill, thanks for doing the podcast.
I'm happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was good to see you at the Comedy Bunker. Thanks for swinging through with Iliza.
You guys are doing a great job. I was fortunate enough to do it back when it was in that speakeasy with like the super low ceilings.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really cool tagging along with Iliza and really just seeing how so many people are like kind of meeting the moment in bringing these shows to life. It's important.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm glad you got to do it while it was underground and like a real comedy room. Because to me, it always felt like the Village Underground in New York just kind of like shrunk, like if you just kind of compressed it. And
yeah,
but I don't know if it's ever going to come back like in the next like 12 to 18 months. Like I think we're a long ways off.
I think like the rumblings I've heard from like Live Nation and AEG are like maybe by May or June of next year, they'll be booking like indoor venues in a similar capacity to where we were.
Yeah.
But I know AEG isn't even like investing in drive-in concerts or anything. So it'll be really, really interesting. Yeah. To see how long this lasts. What kind of hurdles and hoops did you guys find yourselves kind of jumping through to like pull off these new outdoor shows?
Do you host the Super Secret Comedy or you just do time?
I used to host, and then what I started doing is I try to put myself in like the least enticing set. So like if I know someone's doing like when it was at the Lyric, if I knew Sarah Silverman was going to come through, I would on purpose put myself up after her just to kind of push myself and know that no other comic is really going to want to go up after that person.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So I would put myself up in that spot. I like hosting. I think it's a totally different exercise from stand-up because you kind of have to make them a crowd. So I enjoy it, but I found when I was producing Super Secret, I couldn't run the show and host it because you're kind of running all over the place doing everything.
Yeah.
To where if someone else could just host and light, then that would free me up to like fix the number of things that were going wrong behind the scenes to make things better.
Yeah, that's so true. Because like I was producing and hosting, and then no comics were there at
right.
the show start time, which is like actually never happened. And you're like, it's kind of like, all right, well, what do we do? And then DJ Demers walked up. I was like, looks like you're going on, buddy. He's like, how much time I'm doing? He's like, 5. I'm like, sure. And then so I went up there and I was like, who's been here before? And only one person had been to the show before, which
That's
for me
awesome.
is great because I was like, all right, I'm going to do my 15. This is perfect. So I go through that and then brought up DJ. And I think during that time, you and Iliza had arrived and every other comic. And then so it worked out fine. Maybe I need like flashcards, like so-and-so, they'd write it on like a Sharpie board and they bring it across. They're like, this person's here.
Right.
Like, that's like, I mean, I could have done the thing like, which comic's here and called them out, but 5 didn't torpedo the show. We do have like a super hard out, like with the neighbors and stuff. So we didn't go over, which is great. But 5's
Is that 10 o'clock?
I mean, it's really like 9:30, 9:45. Because if I say 10, it'll be 10:20, 10:25. So
that's fair. Yeah,
and an
good
hour
call.
and a half show is, an hour and a half is good. That's like comedy.
All you need.
That's all you need. If it drags and, then people are like, all right. I was talking to Michael Longfellow yesterday, and I'll tell this story again. But like, there was one time when I went up at the Comedy Bunker, and I was like, "Are you guys ready for 2 more comedians?" And the guy in the front went, "Fuck," and I'll always remember that moment as like, don't book too many people.
Yeah, that's a lesson I learned pretty early on in Super Secret. I used to just like book it as like me. Super Secret used to just be like me, all of my friends that I came up with, and then maybe like one or two headliners.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I should just like, what's better for comedy overall is not making all of our different friend circles come together to like hear the same jokes that they've seen 1,000 times, but just like putting on a generally great comedy show,
Right.
to where you're not reliant on your friend circle and anyone coming is going to be like super stoked.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you do a great job of this too. Like
Oh,
the
thank you.
lineups you guys have, they're like festival, like anywhere else in the country, it would be like, this is a festival.
Yeah.
You bring all these great voices together. Also, you didn't seem anxious at all during your set the other night. And you seemed very comfortable.
Oh, thanks.
Which is awesome. But yeah, just so important to like put on a good show for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's unnerving going on stage, not knowing where the next comic is or how long you're going to be up there,
Yeah.
or knowing anything. Just going up like, okay.
I was fine with that. I figured like someone's got to show up in 20 minutes. Like, so I was okay with it. And thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad it worked out. It's just like you said, I did have one guest host one time and that worked out well. I don't know why I've never done it again, but I feel like there's a response. I always put the show first. Like there's a responsibility to make the show as good as it can be. So if I need to do crowd work to warm up the show, if I need to quiet like a more drunk area, whatever it is, like making the show great is my number one priority.
When Super Secret first started, maybe for like the first year, I would get up and do close to the same set every night, just because I was like, I know I'm going to crush. This is going to feel really good.
Yeah.
But then your peers start to have new material and you're like, what am I doing?
Right.
Everyone coming to the shows knows all these jokes. I don't like telling them anymore.
Yeah.
It's, you gotta like remember to push yourself. Yeah. So like putting yourself in those spots where you kind of know like this is going to suck.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're working on new material. Having Iliza too, like as a mentor and being on tour with her, I think really helps push me, because we'll go back to cities every year. So, she's expected to have a new hour by the time we get back. I'm expected to have a new 20 minutes by the time we get back to the cities. That's hard to do. I mean, it's not, I forget who told me, but somebody once said the plant only grows as big as the pot. So like for comics like you and I, where we're in the trenches, we're looking for stage time, we're trying to find new material. It's really hard to grow longer cohesive sets with like one arc. When stage time isn't like so readily available.
Yeah.
Whereas like these headliners, they get up 4 times a night and they can easily kind of bring that together.
Totally. I was listening to Gary Gulman on this other podcast. I forgot which one, but he said, you don't build the hour in 15-minute increments. You build the hour by doing the hour. So it's like having the luxury to go on stage for an hour allows you to kind of tie it all together and explore and slow down and speed up and all those things.
Absolutely. And get used to a check drop, which is just heart-wrenching. No, it's you can tell, you can see people get specials where it's like, this feels like 4 different 15-minute specials. Yeah. Where, and then there's people where something can just be like one follow through and one arc and just come together seamlessly in a beautiful way. It really is important to just like get those at-bats and take advantage of them. So I get a little frustrated when I see showrunners just doing the same set, because it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I
Where's
mean,
that set?
I feel like, I think we all feel self-conscious about doing any joke we've done before at a show that's technically ours, because you're like, all right, someone here is gonna have heard this before. So as long as like, if I can get like, I always push myself to bring my pad on stage at my show. I'm like, okay, some of this might not work, but I'm gonna try something new. And depending on who's been here before, or if I need to actually rehearse it all together, you're gonna hear some old ones. I'm sorry, but it's just how it is.
And I mean, you can only write write stuff so quickly,
Yeah,
and part of writing a joke is the repetition and finding all
totally.
those little pockets in there. So I think it's really cool that we're starting to see comedy fans that appreciate watching a joke take shape. Like
Yeah,
Iliza
definitely.
has people. We'll have people from out of state, drive to like multiple shows during a tour. So like by the time that person sees us for like the third or fourth time, to hear them say like, "Hey, that Girl Scout cookie joke you're working,"
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
remember when this, and now it's this thing. It's great that people are starting to appreciate that, because I think for the longest time, all people were seeing was just like all they were seeing was the finished hour, where
Right.
people just assumed like people are just thinking this up on the top of their
Right.
heads, and
Yeah,
this all and this is amazing.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how long it goes. But you started Super Secret. Like, walk me through the process of like how you started that and like what your thinking was.
I had just started trying to be a stand-up comic,
Mm-hmm.
and back then I thought like I was doing 3 bringer shows a month, and I thought I was a stand-up comic. I wasn't doing open mics. I was just funneling my attention into like promoting 3 shows a month,
Yeah.
and I thought that's what it meant. And then I at the time was single. I was, I think I did a set in the OR and then went to the den and had a few drinks, and like a girl that I was very interested in, but I think I was only ever going to be like the emotional half of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
She was getting everything else somewhere else, but
Right.
I was just so hopeful. I was so hopeful that I was
Yeah.
gonna, gotta graduate
Yeah. Young
and,
women
and
are the
become
best
more
of
than
that. They make one relationship out of like 3 guys. Like, you do this, you do this, you do that.
yeah. I was part of a Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
I was just this emotional support, and sometimes we would make out and
Yeah.
spend the night. And I got invited to like this rap party for a play, and I drunkenly went to this unknown black box theater,
Mm-hmm.
and just happened to compliment the guy in the corner with the iPod playing music,
Yeah.
and that person ended up being the owner of the theater, and I drunkenly asked if I could start a show, really just as like a selfish want. I'm sure you can appreciate this, like no one's going to want to give you stage time the way that you want to give yourself stage time.
Mm-hmm.
And like the best way to like carve out a space for yourself is to just like promise it and gift it to yourself.
Right.
And I asked if I could do a show there. At the time, I didn't have a car. I was helping my mom. My mom was trying to get a divorce but couldn't afford to live on her own. So I was co-signed on like a condo in Calabasas and was helping her kind of like reset. So for me to like get to LA, it was 3 buses and a subway one way.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get to the Lyric where we had Super Secret at like noon, and I would like a lot of the times by myself just like grab a ladder and start focusing all the lights and setting up all the chairs and building the bleachers, because it wasn't making, it was nothing when it started, so there was no budget to like have people help me with it.
Yeah.
And because it was a black box theater, there was always a different kind of event there the night before. So
Right.
there were times where I would walk in and like it would still look like a children's play that happened the night before, and I would have to refocus all the lights, reprogram the lighting cues, figure out what to do with all these paper mache tree trunks.
Yeah.
And
stuff them in the back. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the same time, I'd only been doing stand up like a year, so I didn't really know anyone other than my peers and like people that were on the same shows as me. So I just started blindly. I started Facebook messaging people and Instagram messaging people, and then I just started guessing people's emails and trying it that way.
Yeah.
And finally, like I think after the second time Iliza did Super Secret, she kind of got off stage and she grabbed me by the shoulders almost aggressively. Like I was definitely like just like shocked a little bit.
Yeah.
But she grabbed me by the shoulders and was like, "Why can't I do this show every night?"
Yeah.
And just told her, like, I don't have a car. I live in Calabasas. I have to get myself here. I don't have a means of networking and knowing anyone. Like, I sent you a message on Facebook, and she just kind of pushed me away out of frustration. And I was like, okay, I hope she comes back and does it again. The next morning, I woke up to an email from her the next morning, and the subject line just said, "No more excuses." And it was like a 2-sentence email. And she's like, "Here's all the contacts I have. You let them know that I gave you their information and that I vouch for the show."
Wow.
She literally just forwarded me her Rolodex. She was like, "Here's Ali Wong. Here's Anthony Jeselnik. Here's Dimitri Martin. Here's, Pete Holmes. Here's Natasha Leggero.
Yeah.
Here's like everyone that you would, not everyone, but like pretty much all you would need to get the ball rolling."
It's a lot of them.
So many.
Yeah.
And then it just became, then it was really just like, and I'm sure you've had this with Comedy Bunker too. Like, I think the big hurdle is just getting someone to come try your show for the first time.
Yeah.
And if they have a great time, if you can like earn their trust as far as like, they like doing your show, the audiences are good. It's not in the back of a bar where a game is still on.
Yeah.
Then it's easy to get people to come back.
Yeah. And those are small things, like the small little production things you do create like a big reputation, like not having television screens on, making sure everything's good. People aren't talking over the comedian's set. Like, it's not, in a way, it's not rocket science. It's just like the will to do it, I
am baffled. You are absolutely right. I am baffled by how easy it is to put on a great comedy show.
Yeah.
And how rarely you ever see that happen. From Super Secret to I built and now we sold a comedy club in Orange County called the Rec Room.
Okay, yeah, I've been there before. It's great. I didn't know you built that.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
So there was like 6 months where I would wake up at 4 a.m. in LA and drive down to Orange County and like yell at contractors about them wanting to build the ceiling too high,
right?
Or the kind of insulation that was going to be in the walls, so we didn't hear arcade games and bowling pins coming through the walls while you're on stage. It doesn't take a lot, but from a business standpoint, I guess if I'm playing devil's advocate for the comedy clubs, not to say that they're in the right at all, but like the things that you really should spend money on don't give you a return investment. You're not gonna get an ROI from having like a great green room or from having
R12 installation.
Right, exactly. But if the comic is like, I can't get this experience anywhere else, then they're gonna keep coming to you, and that's gonna keep your showroom full because you have these amazing minds that want to come perform at your place instead of the place down the street.
That's amazing.
I'm sorry. I think like Todd Glass is definitely like the Bible I followed while creating Super Secret.
Yeah, Todd Glass is my Bible too.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because
he's the best.
I helped Jamie Flam start Dynasty typewriter.
Yeah,
and Todd would be there in the early days. And I just watched him be like, "Why are you talking? Like, we're putting this, we're laying out, hey, there's pizza here. Get some oregano, sprinkle it on the pizza, make it look nice." And then I'm like, "Oh, this is the guy."
Todd did Super Secret once, and immediately it was like, "You need to meet Jamie because you guys are the same with your attention to detail."
Yeah.
Todd's the best at like saying, "This is great, but if you spend like $1 more, look how fancy we can make it look and just how much better it can be." When we were doing the interactive Super Secret shows at like the height of COVID hysteria, he was great. Just like, have some reserved spots for the comics. So, if they're not comfortable being in an outdoor green room, they can hang in their car until it's time for their set, and just little itty bitty things like that. We made sure that there was an artist entrance at the Rec Room, so you could go straight from the outside into the green room, so you don't have to walk through the showroom.
Yeah.
It's been really cool. I'm so glad that, I'm so glad to talk to someone with a mutual appreciation for
Yeah.
all like the little things that bring it together.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been cool, like coming up with Iliza, because when I started with her, she was in clubs, and now we're like in like this year we were supposed to be in like 6K capacity theaters, but to like start where you didn't have your own bathroom and you'd like walk through the crowd to like go use the restroom before your set, and to now, you know, be in a setting where like everything plays into the show.
Yeah.
Definitely have an admiration for good comedy producers, good club owners.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's fine.
I picked up Todd's book too. I was like, maybe there's some extra gems in here too. I read his.
I have that. The Todd Glass situation.
Yeah, the Todd Glass situation. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah. No, I think he's probably one of my favorite people. Has he done Comedy Bunker?
Yeah, he has. He did it when it was downstairs, and it was like, and we had someone playing keyboard too. So he was like pointing at the keyboard player, and it was an epic. And Troy Conrad has this photo of like this smoke coming up in front of him in this like 360 panorama shot. It's incredible. Like it was one of the best nights. It was great.
There are these little moments, these little pockets during shows where, and I'm sure you have this a lot, but you can just see a comic doing something and know this isn't going to be replicated again tomorrow night. Like this comedy moment is just for us right now, and it's not going to be replicated, or this joke won't be told again at the Improv tomorrow night.
Right.
And like those little pockets where like, you're just like, oh, this is awesome. Todd Glass is on stage and Rory Scovel's heckling him from the audience. Like this is a very special thing.
I was at Yuck Yucks in Vancouver when maybe they do that a lot, but when that same thing happened. Yeah. and Rory did it in a way where he was like hiding his voice. He was like rah, 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 and Todd was just like, what, this guy is just like, and he didn't know, like he didn't know Rory had come in, or maybe they did, I don't know, but it didn't seem like he did. It was hilarious.
It's hard to keep up with what they're on the same page with and what they're just comfortable. They're close enough to where that could have been just a spontaneous like, I'm gonna fuck with Todd, but also smart enough to where they could have had it all mapped out and known.
Yeah, it felt very spontaneous, but you never know. But that's awesome that you built the rec room and sold it pre-COVID.
Oh
my God, high five.
Yeah. At the time we sold it in December, and I was like, oh man, this is like, my wife and I were just like, you know what, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
You'll find other things to like sink your energy into. And thank God we moved on when we did, just because we would just be sitting on
an empty room.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I went down there with Jamie Kennedy when he shot his special there.
I think that's when we met.
Is that when we met? Okay, nice.
I think so. I think Jamie introduced us. Because he shot his special there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was cool. It was nice. It was nice building something. It was nice. It was an education watching how the Orange County comedy community kind of approaches clubs.
Was it different?
Yeah. A little bit. And maybe I am just biased, but there was like a lot of people where there would be local comics who I still think there are a lot of hysterical Orange County based comics that are coming up right now. But a lot of people would just kind of get in their own way. Like before you could even like offer them a set, we're just like, you can give me a set, but I'm not going to let people know that I'm there. I'm not promoting anything. I'm not doing bringer shows. And it was just like, okay, but nobody, like, you know, from running a show in LA, you have to be very, very funny to get stage time just because people want you to have the stage time.
Right.
So if somebody's like offering you a set and you're just like saying like, okay, I see you helping me out, but I don't want to do anything to help reciprocate this nice gesture. It just kind of became very clear that like the best Orange County comics are already in LA. Like,
Mm.
like if you're in a hysterical comic in New Jersey and you're not in New
In
York every
Manhattan,
night,
yeah.
yeah, then you're doing it wrong.
Right.
And it was kind of just like when I was building the Rec Room, I was like, oh, I want this like to disrupt the local scene. I want all these local guys to like come in here and like make it their own.
Yeah.
And when we kind of got like that pushback of like people just being like, no, we don't want to do that. It was just like, okay, well, then I guess I'll just let you make waves up in LA. And
Yeah, or book it full of LA people who are like, cool, I'll do it.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was not hard to get people to drive 45 minutes to do a cool room, And we did a good enough job to where like I feel like that's why Jamie Kennedy wanted to shoot a special there, and Lachlan shot a special there. Several people recorded albums.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of it. It's cool that like I can just like jot some ideas down in my apartment in Sherman Oaks at the time.
Yeah.
And then have like other reputable comedy club chains kind of like aware of the Rec Room.
Yeah, exactly.
I created an alias. I don't think I've told anyone this. I might get in trouble. So for the longest time, when you went to the Rec Room's website, it just said for bookings, email terrythebooker@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And so many people that I knew personally would send Terry an email, and it was really just me not wanting to be the person that had to say yes or no to anyone.
Right. It's so hard.
And UTA sent contracts to Jerry, Terry. Like I've signed contracts as
Terry,
this person that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want. I just wanted to be the comic. I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
It's the industry, at least. Like I feel like they have a hard time seeing people or accepting people as more than one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could be a producer or a comic, or you could be a writer or an actor.
Yeah. Or what order the slash is in. It's like, are you producer comic or comic producer, or like actor comic or comic actor? Like we all want the comic to be first, right? So how do you not fall into the trap of them seeing you this other thing first?
More than anything, yeah, it's so heartbreaking. Like seeing someone put you in their phone is like, I'll sit there and they'll be like Hunter, producer,
yeah,
and I'll
just Hunter Rec Room.
Right.
I know I'm in people's phones as Latif Comedy Bunker for sure.
And it should just be comic. It's heartbreaking, and there's plenty of other show producers that would strengthen, people putting producers in their phone like that.
Yeah.
But it is such a funny thing, just like the chemical imbalance that is being a stand-up comic, and just how important that is.
Yeah. It is. It is interesting because at some point, like, would you stop producing shows? Like, if you were like, would you still do it because you love producing? Or if you got to a certain level, you're like, all right, that chapter is now closed. I'm touring. I'm doing my own theaters. I'm doing this. I have my album out. That's just my past.
I would love that. This year was supposed to be kind of like the start of that transition.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy Works had just booked me to like headline a week.
Nice.
Stand Up Live in Phoenix had me headlining 6 shows Memorial Day weekend. So like the Heliums, all of these like great clubs had me on their calendar as a headliner, mm-hmm. but then everything got canceled. So, right. I mean, I think, just like kind of getting back to like the origin of this topic, I think the most important thing for me is being a stand-up comic. I was surprised like early on when people would, because there's people that do stand-up to try and get attention as an actor or
right.
an actress as kind of like a go-between.
Yeah.
And I was just baffled. I was baffled just because I love stand-up so much that I can't imagine using it or taking advantage of it in that way.
Abusing it, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't want to be a comic, get out of the way.
Yeah. But that's got to be done. I doubt like agents and managers in this environment are like, have you tried stand-up? I don't think they're doing that anymore.
Not so much, but before I think they definitely
for sure.
Yeah. if you were on The Bachelor and you can tell a joke, then you could probably headline some clubs across the country because you can sell some tickets.
Yeah, yeah.
There's definitely people that have careers that maybe got a lot of breaks much sooner than they should have because of an adjacent career that just brought the audience with them.
Right, right.
So I mean, I would love to just tour and be a headliner, but even then, like when I'm doing my solo shows, I still have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Planning the song that the show starts to, the way that the lights go down.
Yeah.
I remember when I was running Super Secret at the Lyric, I would spend like hours just like kicking my legs behind me, finding like all the songs that I wanted to play pre-show on like a playlist, and just like picture people walking into the environment and like hearing this song or having their first beer to that song.
Yeah.
The lights going down at this very specific moment. I think regardless of whether or not I continue producing like showcases, I think like I'll still be super excited to bring those aspects into, when I'm running my hours.
Yeah. Well, now you have there's a certain like a production eye you have that's going to make like your special all that much better, because you're going to be like, no, this is how it needs to be. This should flow like this. And now you have that approach, which just layers on top of all those other things you have, like being funny, telling jokes. And then you're not going to be beholden to someone else saying this is how it should be.
Yeah, I feel grateful in knowing that I've had all these odd jobs and experiences as a producer, consulting producer. Todd Glass shot his Netflix special at the Lyric, so like getting to work with him and his team on like building that aesthetic and kind of bringing that night together. There's all these little tidbits of knowledge that definitely encourage my stubbornness and my eye for things. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the pandemic, I don't know how long it's going to take to like build back momentum as a comic.
Yeah, it's hard. It's coming. Like I'm starting to do like almost a show a night if it's in a park or something. Like it's slowly getting there. It's just like 3 or 4 a week. There's like stuff happening. It's always random, and you find out the day before, but there's stuff. It's coming back. It's not the way it was, but it's like a permanent festival.
Yeah, I mean, comedy finds a way, right? And everyone's trying to meet this moment with something.
Yeah.
I feel a little behind. Iliza and I had like a cross country drive-in tour that we just finished last week. So I feel like now finally I'm starting to kind of pay attention to like what shows are going on in LA.
Yeah.
Now that the tour is gone, where am I getting my stage time?
Right.
And how do I keep? Of course, like as soon as the tour dates end, I have like got to a place where I feel like I broke through on a couple of premises, and now I have all these ideas, but no way to implement them.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to like find these shows that are popping up on the beach or in tree houses and tennis courts and pools.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many
rich people's backyards to perform in. Where do we find them all? Yeah. How was the drive-in circuit? Was it fun? Did you enjoy yourself?
It was good. Some were, all in all, how do I say this? The big asterisk that you have to like kind of get out of the way is that it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel like stand-up. But it was nice to travel. Iliza and I usually on the road every weekend, so I'm used to only being home 3 or 4 days a week. So to go from just constantly being in an airport or in a hotel and to have so much of your like daily routine and your identity kind of built around being a proficient traveler as well as a comic, it felt great to be back on the road in that capacity and waking up and trying to find like the cute coffee shops or like where do we eat dinner if we're only here for one night.
Yeah.
And while you can't really hear the laughs on stage and it definitely sucks in comparison to like, I mean, I would take the worst crowd I've ever had in any theater
Yeah.
over a drive-in show, because at least, you know, they were there, and it was a human connection, and
Yeah.
it was reciprocated.
Yeah. There's feedback. You're close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the drive-in, you know, there's some that are great, and there's some where like there's tons of people out in the trunks of their cars, like right up front, and you can hear, you know, some laugh. But even then, it's like I am on a Coachella-sized stage, getting a bar show's worth of reaction, and you kind of just like have to remind yourself to pace yourself and trust your punchlines.
Right.
Even the new bits, you kind of just like have to leave space there, assume people are laughing before you go to the next thing. Um, but as hard as it was for us, it was really the meet and greets, like after the show, was the coolest thing ever, because it's really easy as a comic to just approach it as stage time at a certain point. Like you're just like, what am I going to do with this set? What am I getting out of this? And then you would do these meet and greets, and everyone was just so grateful that we were even like risking traveling, that we were doing these shows. You know, we almost had to cancel our shows in Houston because of a hurricane. And we were like a little bummed that we might have to cancel it. We ended up doing the shows though. And then you hear these stories and meet and greets, like my mom and I watched you know, the entire Iliza Schlesinger sketch show on Netflix together while she was doing chemo, and we bought these tickets together while she was battling it. And she's not here now, but like your comedy, this is it can mean so much more to people than just like us trying to get this joke down, or like,
right.
You know, sometimes we're just like, where are we eating after the show? And then you go do the meet and greet, and you're just like, oh, this is so great. Like everyone, you forget how much healing can come with laughter. And right now it is important.
Totally. We had someone someone texted or emailed about the last Comedy Bunker show with Iliza, and they're like, oh, Eliza's on. Can any more seats available? I want to fly in from Portland. I was like, oh my, I was like, wow, all right.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sorry, so sorry, it's full, but like, I'll let you know next time. She's like, okay. I'm like, yeah, that's dedication, and that shows how much people want it and want to support and be a part of it and need to get out of their house.
Her fans, again, it's been really cool to, like, when I started with her, she was in clubs, Freezing Hot was just about to come out. So to like see the subsequent 4 Netflix specials that have come out since I started working with her, and just like the time that she makes for people, and sometimes being a fan can be like a creepy thing. I did some shows recently out of town, and we had some friends going to dinner with us, and there were people that really liked me because they found me through Iliza, and you know, they were Instagramming my wife and wondering where we were having dinner before the show, and wanting to get us gifts, and it can be a little unsettling and a little weird. And I remember early on doing a show with Iliza, and like a woman had brought her dog and brought a matching dog outfit for Eliza's dog, and I was just like, this is kind of ridiculous. Like, yeah. And I remember like opening the conversation up to her, like, can you believe this? And I was expecting her to like say something like, I know, it's insane. These people are weird, and didn't bat an eyelash, and so quickly reminded me how cool it was and how lucky she was to have people that care about her comedy this much. Like, yeah. And with going out with other people and not seeing that same connection. And some comics just, you know, now that there's like a VIP ticket with like a meet and greet built in, but for the longest time we would just stand out there after every show, right, and meet every single person that wanted to like shake hands and stuff, and that was turning into like a 2-hour thing of its own, and it was getting like more exhausting to do that than the actual show, because you're like so involved in these conversations and these connections, hiking with people,
Yeah.
and to
A
just
lot
see
of
her do
nodding.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just, the same
Yeah.
conversation, like, did you have a great time? Thank you so much for coming.
Right.
But in a genuine capacity, a lot of people like don't take that time and kind of just don't want to ruin the veil, I guess, that a lot of artists kind of hide behind, the backstage
Right.
allure.
But I mean, that person is now a fan for life. They have a story. They're like, I got to meet Hunter and Iliza and talk to them, and look, I brought them a matching dog outfit, and they took it. And it's like, that's like, guess who's gonna see you next time? That person. Guess who's gonna like watch the Netflix? That person. Like,
It's insane. I've always joked about it, and I've always said that like going to a stand-up show on your first date is genius, because you're leaving with at least 10 inside jokes, at least 10 punchlines that aren't going to make sense to anyone else.
Yeah.
And to now see that from touring with Iliza, like, I used to have a horrible joke about Valentine's Day stuffed animals, and how around Valentine's Day you can't find a stuffed animal that doesn't say "I love you" on it. There's no like "Let's take it slow, turtles," or "You can fix this." And then like fast forward to like 2 years ago, a couple that heard that joke in Washington D.C., I guess like the guy actually proposed by like making a "You can fix me" bear, like actually took something from my joke, and started a momentous life chapter of his own because of a dumb joke that I wrote. So I think I'm very lucky to like have a mentor that, one, takes stand up so seriously, like
so serious, and like watch it. Like I saw her at Paul's show, the Low-Key Outside, and then like just to see like her like work the stuff out, and like so like notepad, like you could tell she's so focused and writes like so well and like takes it so seriously. It's inspiring.
She's not messing around. She's not, she's really there to be efficient and to work hard and to show up and get it done. And I'm thankful for that. I could have just as easily ended up featuring for someone else who like wants to go out and get drunk or high every night after a show. And I'm very lucky. So is my heart. That, we're more of like a hot tea in our green room kind of thing.
That's me too. Well, we're two comedians with kids and dads and wives, right?
I'm trying to be a dad. I'm trying so hard.
You're married, no kids.
We're married, but we're starting to try for kids, which is exciting. There's definitely been like the chemical pivot in my head to where like I get excited to see a kid on an airplane now instead of just whispering expletives to myself under my breath. I saw on your Instagram, I think it was your son's Halloween costume.
Oh, the astronaut?
As an astronaut?
Yeah.
That's the coolest.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, he's like, he wants to be an astronaut. He watched the SpaceX thing go to the dock or whatever it did. So he's a fan.
I watched that. I was so scared for them. It's a nerve-wracking thing.
Well, I mean, imagine you're sitting next to your kid. You're like, Daddy, what was that explosion? Oh, nothing. I mean, that happened with the Challenger. People were watching it, and it was just like, boom. Scary
stuff. What a cool... so awesome that your son wants to be an astronaut. So cool that he gets to watch a shuttle launch at that age. Just like where we are in history is like such a gift.
Yeah. I mean, they're little troopers putting up with COVID and wearing their little masks, and it's cute, but also it's like they're a lot of burden on their shoulders. Are you from the East Coast or West Coast?
I'm from LA originally.
But chestnuts though, like come in those spiky things.
Totally.
And so he had picked up this spiky chestnut and brought it in the house, and then he had the Legos, and he's playing Legos, and they're playing, and he's like, "Oh no!" He brings a spiky chestnut. He's like, "Here comes COVID."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, it was so funny, but also kind of sad. I was like, this is so much part of their reality.
Hysterical, but also so telling.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, my wife and I, we lived through a natural disaster just barely a couple years ago. So I think like us as a couple were a little more prepared for this. Mm-hmm. But I'm so baffled by the way that our world is going to change from this, like long term.
Yeah.
And you know, especially for kids in the developmental stage, even adult relationships, no matter what kind of relationship you had before, it was long distance. Like
Yeah.
quarantine is just like a totally different thing, and I don't think what we were expecting in our first year of
No.
marriage.
I remember like growing up with like AIDS, like as not like having AIDS, but like the AIDS
Yeah.
in school, they would really
Uh-huh.
freak you out. I don't know for yours, but for me, it was like you're gonna get it if you some and there's needles everywhere, and you're gonna step on like they basically told you you're gonna get it somehow. And I was always scared, like some kid's gonna pick up a needle and stab me with like. So this is their AIDS, like this is their big
Yeah.
scare.
They would scare the shit out of us. They were like, you could go to pick up a payphone and somebody might have put a little needle
Yeah.
in the earpiece. And I'm like, who are these people? What is going on?
That's yeah. I felt yeah. Or in the Coke machine, you're gonna get to reach up and pick up your Coke from the machine. You're gonna get AIDS. You're
AIDS.
like,
Yeah.
can I just get a Coke?
I think kids for the most part are doing a great job. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many ways that uh, if you were a kid like struggling with OCD or anything like that, to where like the world is already scary,
Yeah.
or maybe it's a source of comfort that you have that and you're being born at a time where everyone all of a sudden cares about washing hands.
Yeah.
But it's just the weight that are on children. I think teenagers are getting hit really hard too. Like when your identity is just built around socializing
Right.
and having people like you to all of a sudden not be able to do that.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be able to do that.
Right. Right.
It,
Now you gotta do it all on your phone. Extra phone time, and everyone's gonna look the other way. Like, oh, what else can they do? And they're gonna be
right.
even more ingrained.
It's crazy. I hope we move through this.
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to ask you about the
Yeah.
your show. I saw you post something where it was like a super secret comedy show, and it was like a wraparound of screens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does that work? It looks so cool. It's like a convex, like multi-screen experience. Was that with InCrowd, or was that your own thing?
It was with InCrowd. I helped them kind of get the ball rolling as far as comedy goes. Ended up stepping away, but yeah, it was great. I mean, essentially, Super Secret was kind of the first showcase to kind of use that platform.
Mm-hmm.
It is a 270-degree wraparound LED wall.
Yeah.
And we would just put Zoom callers, essentially 50. I think Super Secret was doing 50 interactive audience members up on the wall at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So as a comic, you know, you could stand there and do crowd work and get heckled and all of that. So to kind of get involved with their team super early on. I mean, I designed their logo a lot, but to also like be able to help with, you know, sound design and how the laughter is going to hit you as a comic, you know, just walking in for the first time and all the speakers being behind you as a performer.
Yeah.
And people would be like, yeah, let's not do that.
Right.
Let's,
it can be it's disorienting.
Yeah. Even with all the improvements that we made, it is still disorienting. And it was really cool. And I am very proud of it still. It is a super inclusive platform with everything that's going on with COVID. We had people with coronavirus watching the shows and laughing, and you know, they couldn't go outside at all. Yeah. So to be able to give everyone a chance of a night out was great, and a little bit of delay, but nothing too big.
Yeah.
So it was really cool, and I'm sure versions like that and Zoom Zoom shows and this kind of stuff is going to like kind of trickle into entertainment that we see in different ways. But yeah, to the same point, I maybe worked at InCrowd like full time, like 9 to 6 for like 3 or 4 months. And I remember putting so much work into that. And then I remember going with Iliza to Paul's show, Low Key Outside.
Yeah.
And just for the first time since March, hearing real laughs again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like got emotional. Like I was making a point not to tear up in front of people, but it was just like, 20 people in a parking lot is always going to be better than, 400 people
online
through a computer.
That's
Like this is so much.
That's the thing. I think there's always, now that it's here, I think there'll always be a place for it. There'll always be some shows online, but yeah, what a parking lot show with real people is still better than online. Like it just is.
Yeah, and I think I did a voting show with the Biden campaign where.
Oh, I saw that post. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was essentially a hybrid where if you registered to vote, you could watch a live stream of a live show. So for us, the comics, there was still a live audience there, and everyone got tested before they were allowed to take their seat.
Yeah,
you still had to wear a mask, and everything was socially distanced and just hyper safe.
Yeah.
So I think I would love to see hybrids, and what a cool way to like share the indie scene of like LA and New York, so for like my little indie show, Super Secret, a show that you would only know about if you're really into comedy in LA, to all of a sudden be able to watch that anywhere in the world. Like we had people from Belgium and Australia tuning in every week to watch Super Secret. It was a really cool thing. And there's so many great shows like your show or Jeremiah Watkins Stand Up on the Spot, Roast Battle. If you could just like let kind of people into that side of the comedy world where it's not just the 2-drink minimum and just ironed in jokes, but letting people kind of enjoy something a little more raw and genuine and half baked, I think is cool. But yeah, even with like Netflix specials, you see specials where if they don't capture the energy of the audience, everything falls flat.
Yeah. Or if they capture too much.
Totally.
Sometimes you're like, whoa, that's a lot of laughs for that.
Yeah. I'm so grateful to live in Los Angeles. And I'm sure New York is humbling in the same capacity. But I love how nobody cares. Like I love that I can go do the Chicago theater with Iliza and tell that joke there and get the longest applause break, and then go to the open mic at the Improv and tell that same joke and have nobody thinking anything other than when is this guy's set done and does my name get pulled next?
Right. It's 100% the truth. Well, Hunter, this has been great. I really enjoyed this chat. Thanks for doing the podcast, and I'm looking forward to having you on the Comedy Bunker very soon. And where do people find you? Where do they follow how do you get invited to Super Secret Comedy? Where do they find you online? Tell us all the goods.
Yeah. For the most part, you can find me, my website, my Instagram, my Facebook, my TikTok is all Hunter Hill Comedy. Mm-hmm. Super Secret Comedy Show, you can go to supersecretshow.com to find out about that. Or if you really want to, people can just text me at 310-299-9272.
Oh, you're about to get 4 texts, so this is great.
It's been a real cool social experiment. We did it at the drive-ins. I would put my number on the Jumbotrons, and one girl sent me naked photos of her husband, and then all of a sudden we were doing the meet and greets, and it was like, this guy looks familiar. But for the most part, just Hunter Hill Comedy.
Is it your real number, or do you have like a intermediary?
It's this app called Community.
Okay, yeah.
So I was lucky enough to get in with them at an early level.
Sweet.
But it's great. It is just text messaging. Just like if someone says they're going to hurt themselves or something, there's an entity pretty much watching to make sure that they get help as soon as possible, regardless of whether or not I'm checking my phone.
That's great. Well, let's. We live pretty close to each other, so let's do Fryman. I do it a lot. If you're into that little Fryman hike, and we'll hang soon.
I would love that, man. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.